we have to go into that matter of the concerns raised about the conduct of the September 3 elections as raised by the People's National Party and the President Mark Golding and General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell, along with their legal advisor Anthony Hilton, suggesting there was significant voter suppression and, as they put it, vote buying at the September 3 polls. I mean, these allegations themselves aren't new because we're see these allegations almost every election cycle in terms of voter buying, voter suppression, voter intimidation. But based on what was brought up at that press conference yesterday, it would be put forward by the People's National Party that this time around that there was a significant, as they put it, a significant increase. As one person said to me, it's the worst they've ever seen it. I have no such evidence. To me, the best I can say is that much of it is hearsay. I can't speak to the actual validity of it. The People's National Party has not raised any such issue with the Electoral Commission or Electoral Office of Jamaica, which in itself is strange to me. And I'm not sure where we go forward in terms of addressing any of these concerns without a actual strong, legitimate body of evidence being put forward. What say you, Saeed? Sorry, too many SADs. I've had to deal with so many SADs over the last few weeks. Saeed.
The evidence would have been good if there's any evidence of it. But I do agree with you as it relates to the allegations. You know, every election we come and hear the vote buying and this and that. And unfortunately, a part of it is a part of a reality. But what more can you do without the evidence? You know, because without the evidence, you don't really have much going from. And I mean, the PNP has said they're not going to any magisterial recounts. So I think, you know, it's time to look forward, you know, as opposed to dwelling on the results of September 3, if I were them.
And I would agree with you with that. And this also brings us into the problem of the West Central St. Andrew count that the People's National Party is suggesting is somehow untoward, again, without providing actual information or a basis for that concern. They've floated in the public domain that they want to bring it as far as a court in order to analyze or assess the situation in the Prime Minister's constituency, when if you look at elections gone past now, this matter of the Prime Minister's constituency, their concerns, will he win back his seat, will he not win back his seat, we raise it every election night when it comes to the Prime Minister.
Every election night?
Every time it comes to the Prime Minister's behind, will he at the end of the day catch up? And he always does, because of
where the boxes are coming from.
The peculiarities of where boxes are counted and when they finally arrive at the final counting station. So I've always wondered why this particular instant case and why it's specifically the Prime Minister's constituency, which is now cause for alarm by the People's National Party. It almost seems as if any attempt is being made to try and delegitimize the election, while out of one side suggesting that we accept the results while challenging them within the same breath.
Yeah, there was a concession speech on the night of September 3rd. I don't know the information as it relates to the claim and what would make up that claim going to the election court, and that would remain to be seen, right? I guess because of my practice, I would never say there is no claim, because I do not know. I do not know.
The legal.
Yeah, I do not know. You know what evidence they have or what information they have, and they have a legal advisor, and I am certain that together with their legal advisor, they would know how to put together that information, and it must have reached a threshold for them to be considering what they're considering. What I'll say though is, Siobhan, I remember September 3, that election night, and I mean, when Mr. Buchanan was ahead of Andrew Holness, I said, you know, this makes for good cinema, it makes for good theatre, but we all know what's going to happen, right? And again, when you look at the Seawright Garden boxes, for example, once those boxes are counted, then that is when you get the
Yes,
uptick
surge,
in Prime Minister,
so to speak.
right? And based on the information we had as well that night, when he was ahead, those boxes were not yet counted when Buchanan was ahead. And then, of course, there was this long pause for like an hour or two for the count of that seat. And then it was completed, and then it was ahead. And I remember saying that night, Siobhan, this is not going to hold. This is not going to hold. This is not going to hold. Because anybody who knows the politics knows that certain boxes coming from certain divisions go one way.
And it's essentially the bread and butter of politics in terms of when we call seats and understand how the voting patterns happen. For example, Central Manchester in the 2020 elections, there was an expectation that based on where the counts were coming from as to whether Bunting would have made it across the finish line versus Rhoda Moy Crawford. And when we actually looked at the analysis as to where the seats had been counted, it was clear that yes, Rhoda was going to take it home that evening. And there are other divisions where we can say the same, similar factions, because we have voting bases in constituencies, even what would consider safe seats. You have specific divisions in those constituencies that might lean JLP, that might lean PNP, and when those are factored in, it will affect the result at the end of the day. So I'm very curious as to what this quibble specifically over the Prime Minister's seat is this term, why it's being raised by the People's National Party. But even more concerning is the dismissal of the observer missions that came to Jamaica and essentially gave their confidence in the electoral process, suggesting that it was free from any intimidation, free from any harassment, and to the better conduct, suggesting that this is something that the region of the Caribbean could take on as to the best practice. Now, that is being mired into these suggestions of increased intimidation and harassment and voter suppression being considered to be wide scale. And we're being compared to Guyana, where their documented concerns over voting fraud and other election irregularities are well known. I don't know why we're being painted in the same light by our own local representatives when others have suggested that we have been well above board in terms of our conduct of these elections.
Yeah, man. Go on.
So I don't think there's any air between us in terms of the discussion on this matter, but I'm curious to see how things go in the coming days and weeks. We have the Prime Minister be sworn in next week. I assume his cabinet will follow soon after, and then we should expect the opening of Parliament to happen not too far off in the distant future, probably sometime still within September. And I'm wondering if these concerns by the opposition remains when we head back to Gordon House and have the opening of Parliament, if they will quietly put them aside, or do we expect that this should be a long drawn out concern going into the next parliamentary term?
Well, the answer to that question lies in what you've seen. There was a press conference by the PNP at, I think, 1 o'clock, and a press conference by the JLP responding
2:30.
to that 1 o'clock press conference at 2:30. So, to my mind, the pattern has been set, the pace has been set between the parties. I'd be surprised if this is the end of it. Put it that way.
So you expect the constant tit for tat to continue for some time?
For some time. Because, again, and I've never seen this swiftness from the JLP as well, where the PNP calls a press conference at 1, and they call a press conference at 2:30, responding to that press conference at 1. So, perhaps if more information comes out from the opposition party, then if they're keeping the same level, I expect the same from the JLP in response.
I suppose that's something that they learned from the previous election term, when the People's National Party would be running with a narrative for quite some time, and then there would be questions as to why has there been no response from the government? Why is the government not responding to these concerns? I suppose now, learning what they've learned from the conduct of those elections, they've decided that it is best not to leave certain seeds of doubt in the public domain which need to be immediately challenged by the government in order to retain legitimacy?
Continue. Siobhan. I don't think Siobhan understands it now. You know, Manchester United jersey.
How are you thinking about right now is football?
Well, it's the weekend.
Well, I can understand that. We are looking forward to the weekend, but I mean, I was thinking that after
But
the
no,
election...
I'm not far off from you, though. I'm not far off from you.
I was
That's
thinking,
it for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking after the election came and gone, things would simmer and settle down somewhat, but it looks like those expectations...
No, Siobhan. It's too soon, actually. I think it's too soon, Siobhan. I think it will simmer and settle. I just think it's too soon. When was the election? The September 3rd?
Yeah,
Today's what? The
about
9th?
7 or 6 days ago,
6
yeah.
days ago. Yeah, I give it another week or so.
Well,
Give it another week.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell.